Welcome back, guys. So this is very obviously not my high school bedroom. This is a white wall. But yeah, I'm all moved into college. I know I haven't uploaded in the past 2 weeks, and I'm sorry about that. I was really trying to figure out what I was going to do, how I was going to get set up in here, and I had to even find this room in the first place. But luckily, my school has a recording space for people who want to record like podcasts or YouTube videos, and that's perfect for me because I want to record YouTube videos. But yeah, you're likely going to see me in here for the foreseeable future. Whenever I do go home for like breaks or something and I have to record from home, I will be using whatever's left of my home setup. But for now, and whenever I'm at college, I'll record from here. So expect to see this wall a lot. But that's not why we're here. So you know EmuDeck, the project that initially started as a way to get emulators running easily on the Steam Deck? Yeah, well, they're launching a mini PC. And to be honest, I'm actually really excited for it. But before we get into anything, I just want to make this very clear that this is currently an Indiegogo project. There currently is no guarantee that this will happen. I will be talking about it in this video as if it ships, but the owner of the project, the creator of the project, has said that if it does not meet its goal, he will not keep any of the money, which I think is very respectable. It's a very respectable position to have. But I will be talking about it in this video as if it's going to ship when they say it's going to ship. But I just wanted to get that out first. I wanted to say that first. As of recording this video with 54 days left in the campaign, it has not hit its goal yet. It is 33% of its flexible goal, but it currently has not hit its goal yet. But to start this video out, let's go over the specs like we always do in these kinds of videos. So this is all happening on Indiegogo. It's a crowdfunding campaign, which makes the most sense for a company, or I guess one dude. I don't know how many people are actually working on this to get something like this actually made. But as of recording this, there are currently two versions you can pre-order, the AMD or EM2 version and the DIY kit. The DIY kit was actually only recently added because it replaced another model, which was the Intel model. But as the EmuDeck Twitter account states, nobody liked that one, so they replaced it with the DIY kit. There are multiple perks listed, but those are for shipping. The AMD model is the same all throughout, and so is the DIY kit. Those multiple perks are just for shipping to different countries. So if you live outside the US, make sure you don't choose the US model. The AMD model uses the Ryzen 8600G chipset, while the DIY kit, as I'm sure you can assume, doesn't have a processor in it. You have to provide that yourself. The AMD model comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of internal storage. That is user upgradable. So if you want to upgrade it to like 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes, you can, but you don't have to upgrade it to 1 terabyte if you don't want to, because when you check out, it gives you the option to add on a terabyte of storage for $55 extra. I didn't do that because I think 512 gigabytes is just going to be enough for me, especially for like emulation and stuff, which is probably what I'm mostly going to use this for. But it's nice to have the option. It can come with a controller as well. There is a version of the AMD model that doesn't come with a controller, but I chose it for it to come with a controller just because I feel like it's more convenient. It'll have a controller out of the box, and it's an extra controller to use. I do have several Bluetooth controllers that I could probably connect, or USB controllers, but I feel like it's more convenient just for it to come with one anyway. The DIY option doesn't come with a controller, but I'm not sure that's really a surprise because for 150 euros or 165 US dollars roughly, I wouldn't expect them to give you a $25 controller as well. The controller is a GameSir Nova Lite controller, which does retail for $25, which is, I think, $2 or $3 more than the price difference between the AMD version with the controller and the AMD version without the controller. But I feel like it's more of a convenience for it to come with it rather than it being cheaper than buying it yourself. The difference in price between the models is very significant though, because one is a pre-built gaming PC, pretty much, and the other is a DIY kit. The Intel version they were selling before was $331 for US buyers, which made the difference a lot more like noticeable because it wasn't just like something you build yourself with a shell versus a pre-built. It was two different pre-builts, but they're no longer selling the Intel version, so we don't really have to talk about it anymore. The DIY kit, like I mentioned before, retails for 165 US dollars, while the AMD version starts at $675 with no controller, which I think is kind of insane, but I mean, For what they claim is a very powerful device and from a company, or I don't even know if it's registered as a company. I think it's just one guy or like a few people running it. For what I know is like a very small group of people who probably can't afford to take a loss on something like this, like something like Steam or other big companies can. I guess it's reasonable, but I still think the price is insane. But I mean, like I said, for what they claim is a very powerful device and for a design that I think is really cool that we'll discuss in a second, I really can't complain. But I can point out just how absurd or insane that price is. For the AMD model, the DIY model is pretty reasonable for what it is. But moving on, the design of this thing is fairly simple, and as multiple people have pointed out, it looks like a prototype Dreamcast, which is seemingly what they were going for, so it's good that multiple people have picked up on that. The device itself has 4 USB ports on the front to plug controllers into, power and reset switches on the top, a USB-C port on the back that I assume is for power, and a 2.5 gig GPS. I was gonna say gigahertz, but it's GPS Ethernet port. When this page first launched, when they still had the Intel model on there, and I pre-ordered the Ryzen version, that graphic that I just showed did not say anything about an HDMI port on the back. So I was very confused. I was like, oh, are we gonna have to plug an adapter into the USB-C port on the back and charge it that way and also do HDMI out that way? But that was just my mind racing. I think it was pretty safe to assume that there was going to be an HDMI port on the back. I was just wanting clarification in any way possible. And I left a comment in the discussion page on the Indiegogo page because I was confused because it didn't say anything about an HDMI port, especially because we didn't have any photos of the back. But I left a comment and the person behind the campaign left a reply to it and told me that there is going to be an HDMI port. And since then, they have updated the graphic, like I showed, to show that there will be an HDMI port, which I think is great. Like I said, I think it was safe to assume that there would be an HDMI port, but clarification is good. I don't know. I like having clarification on stuff like that, just because I don't want to say that there's an HDMI port if there isn't. You're gonna need to get a dongle for yourself. It's like weird. But I mean, overall, I really like the design. It looks really sleek in the renders they have here, but I hope it isn't too different when it ships because it is still renders. Stuff could change. We've seen companies change designs before. I hope it isn't like that. Now, if you heard me say mini PC earlier, you might think that this thing is running on Windows, but luckily it isn't. And I say luckily because gaming PCs do exist, and I'm sure Windows would work a lot better on a gaming mini PC than it would on a gaming handheld. But EmuDeck works best with Linux. They do have a Windows version now, but it does work best with Linux since that's what it started on and most fleshed out on. And gaming on Windows really isn't as straightforward as it could be. You can use Steam Big Picture, but at that point, just try and get SteamOS on there. But like I said, it's not using Windows. It's using Bazzite, which has recently gained traction for being a new way to get SteamOS, not actually, but like really, really close to it, on Windows gaming handhelds. Now, it wasn't the first option. If you've been subscribed to this channel for long enough, you'll remember back early, I think in January of this year, when I put Chimera OS on my Loki Zero to turn that into a Steam Deck. But to be honest, I think this is a better choice. Chimera OS was great for what it was, but the desktop mode was not the same at all. And it wasn't really a Linux desktop or looked like a Steam Deck desktop. It looked like a very convoluted Linux desktop that was annoying to navigate. But Bazzite seems to give you that simple Steam Deck desktop mode experience, which is better, I think. Chimera OS was great for what it was, but I think Bazzite is probably a better option for something like this. And I haven't used Bazzite yet. I've seen a lot of people talk about it, but I haven't used it yet because I have no reason to use it. It seems like kind of a pain in the butt to do, but I also don't need to turn another device into a Steam Deck yet. But this is a cool alternative to Windows, and I'm sure it'll be great for this mini PC because EmuDeck does thrive on Linux. EmuDeck is going to be pre-installed, which I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's thought about this thing for more than 10 seconds, but it's still great regardless because of how easy EmuDeck is to use after you install it. And scrolling past that is when we get to the aforementioned spec and gaming comparisons. I really wish I screenshotted this thing before they removed the Intel option because it was just funny. Like they had the Intel option lined up and then the AMD option lined up, and the comparisons, it like wasn't even a comparison. It was like really funny. Now all that's shown is the AMD option, which makes sense, but when the Intel option was still there in the game FPSs section, Hades had an FPS next to it, and nothing else did for the Intel option. It did make the AMD kind of look better. It like made it look like a better purchase, but I mean, still a great purchase now that the Intel's gone. But regardless of that, they do have them all split out in sections of specs, games, and emulators, which I think is really nice and really easy to look at. The frame rates next to the games are really good for the most part. Even the bad ones can be locked to a lower frame rate, which makes me really excited because I could probably play a lot of PC games that I've been meaning to play for a while on this thing. I'll probably have to like only download one at a time because I didn't do the 1 terabyte of storage, but it's fine by me. I'm not going to be playing that many PC games anyway. But it will be a nice way to play a lot of PC games without plugging my Steam Deck into a dock that I might have forgotten when I was packing for college. This should just act like a Steam Deck plugged into a dock with better performance, which is really exciting. Even if you're getting the DIY option, you could probably make it better than the Steam Deck or even better than the AMD option if you really wanted to. And you can make it as powerful as you want within the shell constraints. Emulation is shown as really good. I do understand that Yuzu doesn't exist in an official capacity anymore. They don't support it, they don't update it. But I am interested in seeing how Ryujinx runs since EmuDeck does support that. But I imagine it'll run amazingly since everything else does too. So yeah, the power will be cool to test out, but we know that the AMD model is going to be able to play most things really well. It would have been much cooler, I think, to test out the Intel model just because that's like a bit more iffy. It would have been cooler to see how that compares to the AMD model and how pushing that to its limits would have gone, but we can't do that anymore. The AMD model is still going to be really cool to test out. It'll be nice to have something that can play all of those games, but Intel model would have been cool to test out too. That's all we really know about this thing thus far, but near the bottom, they teased a docking station that would act as, I guess, a desktop graphics card for this thing, which compared to the FPSs originally shown would be a huge improvement. They said it won't launch until early 2025 if it does launch in the first place, so we don't really have to worry about that now, but it is nice that they're thinking about it at all. I don't think I'll get it. I don't know if I'll get it. I have so many things that can play games at amazing frame rates anyway. I'm not sure I really need something to improve the frame rate of what I'm doing, what I already have to play like emulation games and like PC games and stuff. I play Steam games on my Steam Deck and low-key Max. If that wasn't enough for me, I wouldn't be using those. But like I said, it's cool that they're even thinking about it. At the very bottom is their projected timeline, and with any luck, I'll get mine right after Christmas, but who knows? I hope it does arrive while I'm at home for Christmas vacation because I set my shipping address to my home address and not my college address, and I don't want to deal with that if it arrives after I leave for college. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's pretty much it though. I'm still working out how this whole setup's gonna work out. I don't think this is how it's gonna look permanently. This is just me doing a first time setup. I might be using a different camera because my school lets us borrow out cameras. I might be using a different microphone if this microphone doesn't work out the best. I might be sitting somewhere else. There's another place in this room I can go sit. I just opted to sit here because it's easier to set up. We'll just have to wait and see. There might be a few cosmetic changes the next time you see me, but most likely it'll be right here. You probably won't see much difference. For the most part, this is what it's gonna look like when I'm filming from college, but that's enough for me. Are you guys interested in this? Did you pre-order one? Do you have no interest in it? Do you think they should have gone with Windows instead of Bazzite? Or do you think Bazzite was a smart decision? Do you think them making hardware is a bad idea? I know some people probably do. I don't, but I mean, you might. Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next week for probably just another video where I'm talking about an upcoming device. Because there was some announcements by Retroid recently. They haven't finished announcing them, so that's why I'm talking about EmuDeck right now and not Retroid. Anyways, I'll see you guys next week. Goodbye. Pretend my hand is getting closer because I can't reach that far. Bye.